Okay, hi everybody. So I'm just filming an intro to my new presentation that I finally got done. Sorry about this. I really don't want to work on these genociders. And I don't even want to. This is so just the grossest. And so it's been difficult, and I'm sorry to be so late with it. Anyway, what you'll see after this intro is just my PowerPoint presentation. I don't have my face in there or nothing like that. So I thought I'd just film a quick intro. And so after this intro, it just gets right into the presentation. So I thought I'd just go over a table of content of what's in the presentation, okay? So basically, I talk about how instead of focusing, they're fake media and they're genociders who cosplay as victims and who are nothing like Charlie Kirk. So that's the title. So these genociders, instead of focusing their efforts on public figures who are, instead of ambushing, if it's ethical at all to ambush people and extract their data, it's only ethical to do that to public figures, not private citizens. So instead of, focusing their efforts on public figures who are implicated in the reconciliation industry scam and genocide cover-ups, they are harassing random members of university communities. So that's totally not okay. I talk about how my analysis of their stated missions, I present basically my analysis of their stated missions out here. And I contrast that with their real missions, okay, which is social engineering and genocide. So I talk about how these people are fake media and not real journalists. And they are also unethical researchers. In reality, they're fake media and unethical researchers. And so I also do a bit of presenting on basic journalistic ethics that trained journalists, need to have in order to protect the public from harm. I talk about shameless exploitation of the death of Charlie Kirk. I forgot to mention it. Well, I mentioned it briefly that the reason that they do this unethical research is to they don't even care about ethics. They believe they're entitled to extract this data, and they're using that data for their own personal gain. They're using it for financial gain. They're using it for ideological and political gain, and they're using it for clicks, right? And also, what are they going to be doing with that data that they extracted unethically? Well, they're going to be writing books, and they're using it to write their books, and they're going to go on book tours and all that kind of stuff. And so then I forgot to mention, but on slide 25, you could see, I made the letters really, really big about how Tamara Lich is going to be writing a book and going on a book tour. And that's why Tamara Lich will be out extracting data. I realized she wasn't at UBC, but they're talking on and on about campus tours. I show you 3 stories written by Ezra Levant from Rebel News, talking about how she's going to be visiting campuses and all this kind of thing. And I've connected her to Dallas Brodie and Francis Widdowson as well in this presentation. And so then it's not ethical to gain from data that you extracted from vulnerable populations without their informed consent. So the difference between, then the last thing I'm talking about is the difference between these genociders and Charlie Kirk. So, I have a table, comparing and contrasting the differences between these unethical researchers and genociders and Charlie Kirk. So that's really the gist of this presentation, and that's why I just wanted to film this intro so that you can get an idea, and then stay tuned and check it out. It's not very short. It's a little over an hour. So if you're interested and if you want to see, I'm doing knowledge translation about some of the ethics here and why this stuff is totally unacceptable. and to help people to understand, the implications of that, and also to help people who may be part of one of these communities, like one of these university communities and stuff, because people are not prepared, and we're seeing that time and time and time again. The people who are like what they want is that, like, they're they leverage people's trauma to get them to lose their minds, and these people are not trained. These people are not prepared to deal with these genociders who are trained in this kind of social engineering and this kind of harassment and terrorism, by the way, and mind control, really. And so then that's why, and they want that footage because they want to exploit these people, right? And so then that's another reason why I make these videos, is to help people who may find themselves in that position, with some information that may be useful for them to better prepare for that kind of ambush and that kind of terrorism and that kind of, like mind control by these trained genociders. Okay, so that's all for now, and the video is coming next. Thanks for watching. Okay, so this is my presentation. It's called Genociders Who Cosplay as Victims and How They Are Nothing Like Charlie Kirk. So it's a presentation on fake media and the people behind it who have been obsessed with us for their entire lives and who will not stop until we are all dead. So there's a bunch of them. I'm, working on a list of more. And that's it. So it's by me, Erased and Ignored, MMIWG Survivor, Danny Hickey, Ojibwe, and Anishinaabe Kwe. Okay. So the main points of this presentation are that Canada is a fake country and the laughingstock of the world. This is one of the biggest problems that these genociders have. They blame us for the problems that arise from their colonialism, and they want you to also blame us for their problems. Anybody but them. So the truth is that Europeans would not have survived here if we hadn't have helped them. Some of us, including the Anishinaabe, agreed to share the land and resources that people need to survive here. They did what they always do and what they continue to do. They stole everything they could steal, and then they lied about it. Now they steal everything they can steal from their own children and grandchildren, and they lie about that. They stole the land and they lied about it. They are still lying about it. They used countless methods to wipe us out, and they have failed. Many of these methods are now being used to wipe out their own people as part of a white genocide that I agree is taking place. And the methods of that genocide are the same as the methods that, they tested and tried on First Nations. We are survivors, and we are still here to confront their lies. As long as people like me exist, this will not change. They are offended that we exist, and they are offended that we assert our interest in our lands and resources, which of course they would do the exact same thing if it were them. And in truth, anybody, these people would say, like, if they were able to completely genocide us and wipe us out, they would blame us for being stupid for not asserting our interest in our lands and resources. So, this is all a no-brainer, this stuff. So they're not interested in truth or justice, and they are lying to you. Instead of dealing with these disputes honorably for the first time ever, they will pass their Indian problem down to their children and grandchildren, as their parents and grandparents did. It is cowardice, racism, and genocide. Okay, so this is Frances Widdowson's mission. She wants to force the universities into a reckoning. Okay, so like what happened is that there's been a cover-up of the genocide around Indian residential schools, Indian hospitals, and all that kind of stuff where these crimes against humanity took place, all this unethical science and research, and various other atrocities. So that's long been covered up, and First Nations leadership are involved in the scams and the cover-up, and so then that's why there hasn't been any movement on real, truth or justice, which would require, a proper investigation and analysis of the evidence which exists. So, like, I mean, as I'm saying, even if and we think that we know that some of them were, even if the graves were disturbed and desecrated, we have the technology to analyze the evidence. There's still evidence there, and we have the technology to analyze that. And so that's what's like, they have no plan to do that. They never had any plan to do that, not with the TRC commission, not at any time. And so then, like, I mean, the First Nations leadership in cahoots with the Trudeau Liberals, they were set up to believe that they could announce all of these, graves without without processing the evidence and showing that to Canadians. And so then that was really not smart. And of course, and I mean, it's not just Canadians that are demanding to see this evidence and for themselves. Survivors and families also are interested in seeing this evidence and seeing an end to the cover up. So, I mean, the people that are saying that that survivors and families want to leave the evidence in the ground, considering the circumstances that are reality, are a part of the cover up. So here's some other people, that are involved, some fake media and other genociders involved in this stuff that I've been tracking. So what they're doing is they're going to university campuses and they're like ambushing the university community and vulnerable populations, including survivors, First Nations, other Indigenous, and youth. And in essence, it is unethical research, and it's like terrorism in my view. It's they're uninvited and they're showing up and they're ambushing people to extract their data. And it's unethical research. Okay. So then instead of, pursuing or confronting or, doing investigative journalism or whatever it is, instead of going to the leadership that are at the front line of this scam, as you see pictured here, a couple of them, there's many more. But instead of ambushing them and public people, not private citizens, okay, public people who are, like I said, on the front line of the scam, instead of demanding accountability from them, they're ambushing 20-year-olds on university campuses, and it's like beyond outrageous. Okay, so basically my point here is that, these people are not interested in truth or justice, okay? Because if they were, they'd be trying to get to the bottom of, the evidence of the genocide that survivors have long been telling Canadians went on and, continues to go on in various forms. So instead of that, they're just, erasing us and erasing the genocide as if it never existed. They'll say that there are no bodies. They'll say that there was no genocide. They'll say that, residential schools were the greatest thing ever. And just because the leadership is involved in these scams, and just because they're involved in the cover up, and just because they have not, they had no intention on, I don't like to use the words like excavation and stuff. They're not the greatest words, but technically these that's what these things are. And instead of processing and analyzing that evidence, or demanding that these kinds of investigations be done, they're just nothing better could happen to them than our leadership being involved in these scams, because then they're just using that as a way to write off the entire thing, and by in erasing all of the survivors and all of the families who are missing their children, and like I said, they're not interested in truth or justice or getting to the bottom of anything. They're just, they're really what it is social engineering. And I mean, they hate us and they always have. And, you know, like I said, they've been obsessed with us for their entire lives. And their mission is to convince other Canadians that this genocide never happened, and that we don't have to care about any missing children. So that's really what they're doing, and it's not truth or justice. This is my point. So as we all know, they were at UBC yesterday, and we saw what happened there. So this is what Dallas Brodie is, you know, harping on about. Aboriginal title, private property rights, UNDRIP, DRIPA, the reconciliation industry, mass grave claims, race-based laws. Like, everybody knows that they didn't do the work that they're, you know, like, it can be assumed that the First Nations leadership are involved in this cover-up because they literally took funds. And with those funds, I fully expected them to process the evidence and you know, like, and the analysis of it so that we can see once and for all what we've all been waiting for decades and decades, you know, and that hasn't happened. So then, but you know, that doesn't mean that the evidence doesn't exist. Okay. So race-based laws, like, I mean, if she actually cared about race-based laws, then she'd be, you know, doing some knowledge translation on the Indian Act and some of the other racist legislation that is like a stain on Canada beyond. I mean, this is why the world, the rest of the world doesn't respect Canada. This is one of the main reasons why. Like, literally, archaic and super racist legislation still on the books. Pipelines, resource extraction, foreign influence, Emergency Act ruling, BC party politics, media suppression, and the addictions industry. So, I mean, I'm horrified to see that Dallas Brodie is down on the downtown east side, extracting data for unethical research from vulnerable populations on the downtown east side. I'm also horrified to have learned that Dallas Brodie has some training in journalism, and she ought to have, these people have disposed of all professional ethics, right? That's the point. And they just, they think that Canadians are stupid. They think that Canadians don't know anything about, you know, ethical boundaries or guidelines. And they think they can get away with this kind of, you know, atrocious behavior. So here they are on the downtown east side. I'm horrified, fully horrified. So, like, these people think that they're like, you know, it's not ethical to extract data from people, especially vulnerable people in very vulnerable situations and life circumstances. It's not ethical to extract data from them without their informed consent. And even then, I mean, you should take great care around what you're doing. And these people just think they're entitled to show up anywhere, anytime, and demand data from anybody. And it's awful, and it's absolutely unethical. And, you know, although it may not be illegal, it's certainly not the behavior of professionals or, you know, upstanding Canadians that we would be putting into positions of leadership and power. And so then, I mean, they've completely written off all credibility by engaging in this kind of atrocious ambushing, you know, and unethical research. And, you know, like, I understand that Francis Widdowson would tell you that the research is not unethical because it's not funded by Canada or its governments or its research agencies like the Tri-Council agencies. But that doesn't stand, okay? Because you know, just because your research isn't funded, and I'm not sure that it isn't funded by public funds, but even if it wasn't, okay, that doesn't erase the fact that this is totally unethical research. Francis Widdowson has professional ethics that she needs to consider, and that she needs to, you know, that need to guide her, you know, guide her activities, and she should know better. This is what I mean. And these people are completely unethical, and they've disposed of all of their professional ethics a long time ago. That's why certainly Francis Widdowson should not be reinstated at a university. That's for sure. So Tamara Lich. Now I understand that Tamara Lich was not at UBC, but Tamara Lich is involved in all of this. Tamara Lich is connected to Dallas Brodie. Tamara Lich is connected to Francis Widdowson. Tamara Lich apparently is like a scoop survivor. So like, I mean, I haven't really researched this, but it is my general understanding that she's Métis and that she was adopted or raised by white people. Okay, so I mean, I don't know anything about Tamara Lich, but other than what I gather from her behavior, but there's tons of research about the challenges that adoptees face, and a lot of that and also scoop survivors. And so I think that a lot of that research is probably relevant to what's going on with Tamara Lich. And obviously she resents her circumstances. She probably resents her birth parents, and she obviously resents First Nations. And she thinks it's time to do some tomb raiding, as you can tell by this awful post that she made on November 5th of last year. So the reason I'm including her is because Ezra Levant, who is also a genocider, and one of the worst kinds, because as I've said many times, the worst kind of genocider is a genocider of their own people, okay? The second worst kind of genocider are, descendants or survivors of other genocides who then genocide others. So that's where Ezra Levant is included. And the third worst genociders are all other genociders. Okay, so those are my current categories. So then, what's gone on is that Ezra Levant is a lawyer and, trained in all the tricks. Okay, and so then he has convinced Tamara Lich's probation officer that hiring her as a community ambassador, okay, but what she's really doing is activism and unethical research. Okay, so that's the point that I'm making. So, Ezra Levant, it seems that Ezra doesn't have any trained journalists. Okay, none of these people are trained, and none of these people are have any regard for journalistic ethics. So Tamara Lich is not trained in journalism or research, and and so then my other point is that Ezra Levant, calls himself a rebel commander. He calls himself a citizen journalist. I have shots where he calls himself a citizen journalist. I have shots where he calls himself an independent journalist. These terms are not appropriate, and he's not using terms properly. And in my view, Ezra Levant is a donation hustler, okay, and a click chaser. So it is also my view that he's using Tamara Lich, okay, for clicks and for donations. Tamara Lich is probably fine with that, as is their way. And so then, I guess you scratch my back, I scratch yours type of thing. But all this comes down to, there is some evidence that that donations collected by Rebel News are not being used properly. And what I think is happening is that they're funding, Ezra's mission, okay, whatever. And so then, this includes things like a billboard truck. It includes his TMZ style journalism in Davos recently, this kind of thing. Okay, so a Canadian citizen and journalist. So these two things together is like, he's suggesting that, what kind of journalist is he? Is he a citizen journalist? So here he is, Ezra. I mean, this is when Ezra really hit my radar. This is when I started, this is when I decided he's a genocider. So then, although it is really well known that the genocide on Indigenous women It has many methods and many, modes by which it manifests, right? Like, for example, in trucking. Okay, so I mean, nobody's going to tell me that Tamara Lich doesn't know about what goes on in trucking, and with missing and murdered Indigenous women, and also the man camps that are set up at resource development, and the disappearances from surrounding communities of missing and murdered Indigenous women that way. This stuff is well documented, and these people just flat out pretend as if it doesn't happen, and that is very offensive and wildly inappropriate, all kinds of things. So I thought I'd go over some basic ethics taught to journalists, okay? So unbiased and fair reporting, okay? There's a code of ethics, right? So seek truth and report it. Ethical journalism should be accurate and fair. Journalists should be honest and courageous in gathering, reporting, and interpreting information. So key guidelines include taking responsibility for the accuracy of their work and verifying information before release. Providing context so that audiences understand the full picture, okay? Not just their narrow social engineering, attempts to control a racist and genocidal narrative. Distinguishing news from advertising or opinion and labeling content clearly. Avoiding stereotypes, plagiarism, and distortion of facts. Being vigilant in holding those in power accountable while giving voice to the voiceless. So they're doing the opposite, okay? Instead of like holding the people who are accountable for this stuff, these problems, these issues they have, and giving voice to the voiceless, they're going to the voiceless and trying to hold them accountable, which is just outrageous. And like, see, like that's not what Charlie Kirk was doing, okay? This is what I mean. That, I have a whole nother section about how they're not like Charlie Kirk, so that's coming up. So unbiased reporting requires journalists to pursue facts rigorously without letting personal beliefs distort the story. And that's not at all what they're doing, because these people have been obsessed with us for their entire lives, and they're trying to basically, convince Canadians that their points of view are correct when there's all kinds of evidence otherwise. Minimize harm. So sources, subjects, colleagues, and the public should be treated as human beings deserving respect. Journalists balance the public's need for information against potential harm or discomfort, okay? And so then they're not balancing anything, against potential harm or discomfort. They're literally terrorizing and traumatizing survivors. So showing compassion for those affected by the coverage, using heightened sensitivity with children, victims of sex crimes, or those unable to give consent. They're not even getting consent. They're completely foregoing the entire, concept of informed consent in their work. Being cautious with graphic content and traumatic events. So fairness means avoiding unnecessary damage to individuals while still serving the truth. When in fact, what they're trying to do is instigate, they're trying to leverage our trauma to get the footage that they call, and then they tell everybody that they're victims of violence after they, leveraged people's trauma and got them to behave in these ways that we see. And they're doing that for clicks, okay? And they're doing that for personal and professional benefit, even though they're not professionals at all. So this is why, definitely I support them being removed from the campuses, based on these atrocious acts. So they're supposed to be independent, like of government and all that stuff, to serve the public, and independent of special interests. And so nobody can say that about these fake media. They should avoid conflicts of interest. They should resist pressure from advertisers, sources, or powerful figures. They should disclose unavoidable conflicts transparently. None of that's being done. So, like, I mean, are they independent journalists? Like, what does independent mean? You know, like, words have meaning and it matters, right? So these are the kind of points that I want to make. So, you know, ensuring coverage isn't influenced by external agendas or personal gain. When everything that they do is for clicks, everything that they do is to push their agenda forward, and, you know, and it's all about erasure and genocide. Same as always, same as hundreds of years now. So they should be accountable and transparent. They should take responsibility for their work and explain decisions to the public. Okay, they should acknowledge and correct errors. They should explain sourcing methods. They should engage with the audience and respond to criticism. So, you know, transparency builds trust and allows the public to assess fairness. And they don't give a crap about any of that. So, influences. Fair reporting, unbiased reporting, presenting multiple relevant perspectives when a story involves controversy, giving subjects a chance to respond to criticism and providing context, avoiding favoritism toward any side, letting facts speak without loaded language or selective omission, objectivity in practice. Striving for detachment from personal views. Certainly that's not the case here. Balance versus both-sidism. Bias mitigation. Okay, so they should be taught to recognize their own biases and counteract them through rigorous fact-checking, diverse input, and editorial oversight. So, you know, I think that Ezra is officially the editor over there. You know, and it's a joke. It's not real media, it's fake. So some of the ways that these are taught is through case studies, role playing, and discussions of like real world scandals, which include, you know, fabricated stories or conflicts of interest, and ongoing professional development, right? So, I mean, that's what First Nations are trying to get involved in, is in terms of reconciliation, is like that, you know, that being part of that ongoing professional development, but it's all been made a mess of right now. And so, you know, I don't think, I think we need to straighten out a lot of stuff before we get back to, you know, even like reconciliation is just we probably have to just scrap it and try something new. So the journalism should inform the public reliably, foster democracy, and maintain credibility even when the truth is uncomfortable. And you see, that's what they're trying to talk about, is like they're trying to say that they're freedom of speech heroes, but their fake journalism is not fostering democracy. So here's some background and training of these genociders. So none of them have comprehensive formal journalism degrees. One has partial training. It turns out to be Dallas Brodie. So this can exacerbate ethical risks, and certainly it has, as professional journalism and education emphasizes codes like seeking truth, minimizing harm, and obtaining consent. So Ezra is a lawyer. And he's described himself as an activist journalist, and definitely these people are activists. I think they should just drop the journalist, because none of the things that we expect from journalists, they don't care. Like they're not integrating any of that into their work. They're just plain activists. So he's aware of legal boundaries, but he doesn't. Like I said, these people have disposed of all their professional ethics. Tamara Lich's expertise is in logistics in the energy sector. She's a fitness instructor, musician, and a political activist. She has no journalism training or background, and her Rebel News role involves advocacy and sparking conversations. So, like I said, technically she's being called, her job is a community ambassador, but what she's really doing is fake journalism and unethical research. Dallas Brodie is a lawyer. So she has a broadcasting and journalism certificate from BCIT. 7 years in media, including CBC and radio. So she has formal journalism training, and here she is just ambushing vulnerable populations all over BC. Not just First Nations, but definitely every vulnerable population that she's ambushing includes First Nations. So, I mean, it's like horrific. Frances Widdowson is a PhD in political science and a trained researcher and has disposed of her professional ethics. Okay, so she knows that this is unethical research, and still she considers herself entitled to go about it. No journalism training. Okay. So without ethics training, individuals may overlook principles like informed consent and balancing public interest with potential harm, leading to biased or exploitative content, which are my points. And it's very evident. It's not hard to see by their own documentation. So blurring journalism and advocacy. Terms like community ambassador suggest outreach or promotion, while journalism implies objective fact gathering. So none of those things are going on. So, I mean, technically, Tamara Lich is not a community ambassador or a journalist because she's not doing any of those things. And like, I mean, I realized that she wasn't at UBC yesterday, but the reason she's being included is because Ezra's been going on about how she's going to be at universities. And like, as I said, I've already connected her to Frances Widdowson and her tomb raiding inclinations. Okay. In citizen journalism, this risks turning reporting into activism, eroding trust. And certainly I don't trust them, and neither should you. For Rebel News, framing Lich's campus tours as journalism despite her advocacy background may prioritize ideological goals over neutral inquiry or justice or truth, friends. So audience deception. Viewers might assume that the content adheres to journalistic standards, and that's what they're counting on. They're counting on Canadians being too stupid to know that this is unethical. Right. And I mean, I really don't think they're getting anywhere with that. And I can't believe they don't give it up already. Because, only these the people that support this crap are, they're not right in the head. You know what I'm saying? So, without training, it could spread misinformation or sensationalism. Ethical codes require transparency about roles and avoiding misleading the public. So they couldn't care less about that because they're deliberately misleading the public. They're social engineers. So implications of lacking journalism ethics training. So increased risk of bias and misinformation. They don't verify facts or provide context. It leads to incomplete and divisive reporting. Propaganda, harm amplification. So harm to vulnerable groups. Without training, there's less awareness of minimizing harm. On campuses, this could affect students or survivors, exacerbating trauma or privacy issues. Accountability gaps. Professional journalists face editorial oversight, citizen. And you know what? Just because the mainstream media also have disposed of their professional ethics doesn't mean it's okay for these activists to, doesn't mean that's the new normal. Okay, that's an issue that we have to deal with all the fake media. Ethical issues with uninvited campus appearances, so trespassing and harassment risks. Showing up uninvited can constitute trespassing or harassment of violating campus policies and ethical norms against invasion of privacy. Ambush tactics, common in Rebel News style reporting. Surprise subjects, potentially causing distress, especially in educational settings. Public interest versus harm. When public discourse on campuses serves a societal good, uninvited engagements may prioritize sensationalism over dialogue, harming community trust. So ethics require weighing this against potential backlash or exclusion of vulnerable voices. But they don't care about that, and they think they're trying to convince Canadians that they're doing the same thing as Charlie Kirk, and they are not doing. They're nothing like Charlie Kirk, and I have more of that coming up in a bit. So privacy invasion, they're extracting data They're filming interactions, quotes, personal info without consent. They're breaching privacy rights akin to unauthorized surveillance. In journalism, consent is crucial for interviews, recordings, or data use, especially with vulnerable populations, students, or survivors, and residents of the downtown east side, Dallas. So without it, this can lead to exploitation or harm, which is my point. It's unethical research. Informed consent deficits. So ethical codes mandate explaining how information will be used. Unconsented extraction denies this, risking misinformation and retaliation. So, it's my view that they're using this for their own personal gain, their financial gain, ideological gain, political gain, and for clicks. And that's unethical, friends. So that's unacceptable. So a broader societal impact. This erodes trust in media, amplifies divisions, and may perpetuate exploitation of marginalized groups. So, if you take a more holistic view of our problems here in Canada, the last thing that we need to be doing is amplifying divisions. And that's what these people are all about. So they're undermining journalism's credibility. Especially with the youth, because the youth don't understand, all of the ethical guidelines that should be, observed and implemented into any journalistic activity. And then they get the idea, because, a lot of these youth are still kind of fixated on the idea of being like YouTube, fakes, YouTube stars or whatever it is. And some of them may think that this is their way to get there when it's totally unethical, and they're not entitled to these people's data. And so then they're being misled. And it's not okay. It's lying to the youth. That's not okay. So shameless exploitation of the death of memory of Charlie Kirk. So Ezra Levant in Rebel News is using Tamara Lich to exploit the death and memory of Charlie Kirk. So they hired her. And let's go to what they're doing here. So I was shocked. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I wonder if I can play this. Let's play this.
Ezra Levant here with Tamara Lich. I have been going out to Ottawa for the trial, and Rebel reporters have been there for every single day. And every time I saw Tamara Lich, she was with a bodyguard. You can see here arriving at court with a bodyguard. And I thought, isn't that a good idea? And I assumed that someone was paying for the bodyguard. But I was shocked to hear from Tamara that she has been paying for her bodyguard.
Okay, so that's a guy called Johnny Rowe. All of these people are known to me.
Someone else was picking up the bill.
There's no mob.
All those expenses out of your own pocket to stay
Nobody
safe.
gives a crap about Tamara Lich except her usual crowd.
I was shocked.
Yes, well, actually, it was an organization that had reached out to me before our
Okay,
trial began
so
and recommended that I get.
What's really going on here is that Tamara Lich is desperate to be fake famous, okay? And she wants to act as if she can't go to Ottawa or Toronto or Calgary or Vancouver without getting mobbed because she's fake famous. And like I said, she can go anywhere and nobody cares. Nobody shows up. She was recently in Dundas Square and nobody gives a crap, okay? Only her regular crew, people who are known to me, many of them are not all there and stuff, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of the reason that they are there is because they want to film and they want to, upload to their YouTube and their socials, and they want to be, they're trying to piggyback on this whole convoy thing. There's a lot of this obsession with being, a fake YouTube star or whatever it is. And so, they're not there because they think that Tamara Lich is such a great hero the way she always talks about herself, okay? That's not the reason they're all there. And, I realized that she has some opposers that did show up to the courthouse. There was, that one person who was, playing and, just blaring some recordings from the convoy, honks, the honking that was, really loud and never ending for, weeks and stuff like that. And so then, I'm not saying that there was no one there to oppose her, but, there's no mobs. Like even real celebrities can pretty much go anywhere and they don't get mobbed. Like the only celebrities that that can't go anywhere without getting mobbed are like super gigantic crazy people like Michael Jackson, right? People like Elon Musk have to have a lot of security. People like Justin Bieber, okay? But like I mean, like even like a lot of other celebrities that are household names and stuff, they can go anywhere. Like I mean, I'm from Sudbury, and they were doing like some of that film industry scams, which is really what it is up there in Sudbury for some years, and there was plenty of like geez, I want to say people like Ethan Hawke, I think one time, like people like this, like, household names and that, and like they can go anywhere and they don't get mobbed. Like people see them, they recognize them, and like very rarely do they even approach or, like try to speak to them or anything like that. And like even sometimes they're not even recognized. So I mean, it's all scams. Like I mean, it's all fakery. So I mean, and like Canadians don't know that. The average Canadian may not know that. They may not know that like the whole fame thing is really like it's projected to be something that it really isn't. It really isn't quite the way that they try to make it out to be. And certainly Tamara Lich can go anywhere she wants in Canada and not be mobbed. She doesn't need security, okay? She's not at any more risk from like the crazy leftist death cult than me, okay? Or Chris Dacey, okay? Or any of these other people who are, Karima like Karima Rules, people like this, people who are like exposing the left death scams and all that. She's at no more risk, than us. And we're not trying to act as if we can't go anywhere without getting mobbed in Canada. I mean, give me a break. So anyway, Ezra Levant has described himself as an independent journalist and a citizen journalist. Like the reason why they're fundraising for security is because they're donation hustlers, all right? And they're using the money for something else. So, citizen journalist, independent journalist, rebel commander, in reality, is a fake media, donation hustler, social engineer, and a lawyer who should know better. Okay. Tamara Lich describes herself as a Canadian hero, a Métis grandmother. Tamara Lich is indicated that she was adopted by white people who raised her. She's therefore a scoop survivor, in my view, as she probably deeply resents it, as I mentioned earlier. She blames us for those circumstances. Okay, so I mean, these people get really obsessed, and like if they're not able to process and like if they're not able to like accept their life circumstances as they are, they need someone to blame, and they get really obsessed, and there's a lot of these genociders that are obsessed with First Nations and have been for their entire lives. And so these are the points that I'm trying to make. These are some of the main points that they're not going to stop until we're all dead. And so then, I knew that when I was a small girl. So, and I accepted it, and I've been on a mission, and I've been training and learning and getting ready for all this. So anyway, it's evidence that she's been obsessed with us for entire life and won't stop. So then she's a fake journalist, a fake researcher, and a fake hero. She pounds away at it to be fake famous. The reality is she can walk anywhere, okay? And no one cares except her usual crowd, which is small. And, most of them are known to me. And also, many of them are not there because they give two craps about Tamara Lich. Like I said, they're trying to piggyback for their own aspirations of being YouTube stars. So the people who will confront genociders on university campuses are the same people who confront Widdowson and Brodie, and they don't think Lich is special or different, okay? She doesn't draw a crowd, she doesn't get mobbed, and she doesn't need security.
Ezra Levant
So Tamara Lich is under house arrest. How did we just hire her? Okay, so this is December 18th. Ezra's reporting. He offered her a formal job. To me, the most important part of Tamara's job will be our upcoming campus tour. So this is why they're on my radar. And like, I mean, I've already connected Tamara Lich to Widdowson, and you know, what are they going to do? I think they're going to be probably trying to terrorize and traumatize genocide survivors. So that's why I make this presentation. So Tamara will go town by town like Charlie Kirk did, talking to young people about freedom and hope. She is such a good role model and such a positive person. I truly think she'll help us win the battle of ideas with young people. So this is their plan, is to lie to the youth. Okay? So, again with Charlie Kirk. So, increasing violence from Antifa thugs and pro-Hamas extremists. Okay? So, I mean, residential school survivors and their supporters are not these things, right? And a very small percentage of Antifa or pro-Hamas extremists are First Nations. You know, I mean, those are the ones that are doing that are the ones who are, they're desperate to, like, you know, they use it as an outlet to sort of, like, you know, get their trauma out or whatever, instead of like dealing with their trauma properly and, you know, and you know, taking on their mission in a more appropriate way. They're sort of like jumping onto those bandwagons as an outlet, and many of them are, you know, like, I mean, they're not well, like they're not thinking clearly, and like I said, it's a very small percentage of those groups that are First Nations. So I've promised Tamara that we will protect her. We will have professional security guards with her when she goes out in public to do journalism. Okay, so he's saying that she's doing journalism when she was hired as a community ambassador. Okay, so these are the points I'm trying to make. And when she goes on campus, we'll have at least 4 guards assigned to protect her personally and more to secure the larger venue. So, I mean, that's a whole lot of horse crap if they're going to be going on tour with Francis Widdowson and the rest of these genociders, or doing any style like that, because eventually they're going to have these counter protests, and they're, no matter what I say, I'm telling people not to bother going. I'm saying make it a ghost town when these people show up. Ignore them. But, you know, they're not going to listen to me. It doesn't really matter. Like, I mean, I'm not the controller of these communities. So, I mean, I think the evidence shows that they're going to organize counter protests, and they're going to be there, as are the RCMP. And the RCMP aren't going to give a 2 craps about their private security. Okay. So it's actually one of our largest expenses. See what I'm saying? It's unfair. These guys are huge victims all the time. These are my points, okay? They're the ones showing up uninvited, ambushing people for unethical research, and then they're the ones who are saying that they're the victims, and it's just unreal. So, oh, poor them. That's the world they live in, you know? I mean, they wouldn't be able to survive the genocide that we survived for 5 seconds, these idiots. So will you help me keep Tamara safe on the speaking tour? So here we go. There's all the next thing that comes is they're soliciting donations. So this is what it is about. So that's what they want, is the money, so that they can, you know, continue their crazy obsession and fund their social engineering. So here we go. Rebel News offered Tamara a formal job as a community ambassador. And so then I wanted to make a point that, you know, that's not defined. And also they're referring to her as a journalist. And what she's really doing, or what this is really, is unethical research. Okay. The most important part of Tamara's job will be our upcoming campus tour. So we went through that. Win the battle of ideas with young people. So, I mean, like I said, again, this is social engineering, and it's lying to the youth. And will you help keep her safe? Okay, so December 27th. So Ezra is talking about a conversation he had with Charlie Kirk. He's putting a lot of words into Charlie Kirk's mouth, like things that Charlie Kirk obviously never said. This guy's writing is totally unethical. I mean, it's clearly not a representation of the truth. So he'd be thrilled to know that we have hired Tamara Lich as our newest rebel, and he'd be excited that we're going to put her on a campus tour like Charlie himself would do. Okay? Now, I mean, the point is that Charlie Kirk never showed up anywhere uninvited, and Charlie Kirk never ambushed any vulnerable communities and extracted data without their informed consent. Okay? So there's other differences. So what do you think he'd want you to do? Okay. Like, I mean, that's really like, see, this is really leveraging people's, maybe ignorance around these issues, and also like their emotional, inclinations around these issues as well. And I mean, it's exploitation. This is awful. The way this man writes, is like he's putting words into a dead man's mouth. Charlie Kirk never said he's thrilled that Tamara Lich is a fake journalist. Okay, he never said he's excited that they're gonna put her on a campus tour, or that it's like anything he would do. Okay, that's BS, and it's not okay. We mentioned Charlie a fair bit. In the new year, Tamara Lich will go from college to college, convincing young people to believe in freedom. So yeah, we'll see about that. What does that mean? Okay. I don't think that terrorizing and traumatizing First Nations genocide survivors is convincing young people to believe in freedom, just like Charlie did. Like, I mean, that's crap. And here we go. The blue is always like the blue is where they start their shtick, to solicit donations, right? I need your help to protect Tamara and all the rebel journalists who bravely go into the world to do unethical research, and they're not even trained. So we need to pay for security guards because the police won't stop Antifa thugs or transgender extremists. My goodness. So he wants to keep his promise to Charlie and to his conscience. Ugh, despicable. Okay, so Charlie Kirk was killed because he was effective at spreading the message of freedom to young people. I believe we can honor his memory by recreating his campus tour here in Canada, featuring Tamara Lich, our newest rebel reporter. So they're not recreating what Charlie Kirk did. As I said earlier, Charlie Kirk never showed up anywhere uninvited, and Charlie Kirk never, terrorized and traumatized First Nations genocide survivors to extract data from them for his personal gain. Okay? So I just need your help with security. We must do what we can to protect her. And like I explained to you, she doesn't need security. No one gives a crap if she's doing fake journalism. So what do your donations really fund, Canada? So Rebel News. So this is what it is. It's this TMZ style. So what your donations really fund is these, billboard trucks. Very expensive asset here. I'm against billboard trucks because they traumatize children and youth, and they upset the people who live and work on the streets, and that's a risk to public safety. It's, it's really none of that has anything to do with journalism. It's social engineering and mind control, honestly. And so then also your money funds trips to Switzerland for Ezra to do TMZ style fake media reporting. Okay, January 13th. So Tamara's going to travel to universities. Like, this is just the other day he posted this. Tamara's going to travel to universities, town halls, and events nationwide, sparking conversations about freedom, courage, and standing up for what you believe in. So we'll see what that really turns out to be. And so, I'll have an analysis when I see Tamara Lich, at universities especially. I'll be looking to do an analysis. So here's what your donations also are funding: a producer to help with logistics and professional security. So we hope you can support by chipping in, so she could continue this vital work. Every contribution helps security, travel, and other reporting expenses so Tamara can go where the story demands. And there is no story at UBC or Fraser or UVic. I mean, they're manufacturing that. They're going there. They're like if there's people that are accountable at those institutions, but they won't take a meeting with you, like you can't force engagement. They sometimes use this word engagement, like Widdowson does. Widdowson is saying she wants to engage with specific people, but they won't take the meeting. You can't force people to take a meeting. That's harassment. Okay. And so then instead they show up on campus and they harass the general community, right? Many of whom are vulnerable populations. So that's not like that none of that demands a story. Okay. Community ambassador, campus tour, town to town, talking to young people about freedom and hope. And I'm interested to see what that means. So they say freedom and hope, but when it's on camera, I'll be looking to see what they're really talking about. So, this is not accurate. So Francis Widdowson, mobbed by left-wing extremists at the University of Victoria, and there's a suggestion that these people are Antifa thugs and pro-Hamas extremists. And I don't think that, what's his name? The guy that musician dude. Oh, I forget his name now. Even Amanda Wilson had him at St. Paul University. Ugh, shows how much I care about him. But anyway, he's not Antifa and he's not pro-Hamas. Okay, so they make these things up and they want you to think that that's who these people are. When really what these people are First Nations. They're, many times they're genocide survivors and, whose trauma is being leveraged to get them to lose their minds, which is a tactic that is being used, it's a tactic that's being used against white people now, all over the place. Many instances of that, and then after they leverage your trauma and get you to lose your mind, they get that on camera and then they use that footage for their clicks to get clicks. You know what I'm saying? So it's not ethical. It's not okay. And it's not what they're saying here, okay? So at Rebel News, it's actually one of our largest expenses, and there we go with the donation hustling. This is the result of exploitation of vulnerable populations. Oh yeah, so here's what really is the result of it.
You far-right reactionary piece of shit! Of course you used to teach here! They wouldn't let you teach here!
So this
you
young man
fucking bitch!
is not prepared to deal with this.
Fuck you! I'm mad because you fuckers
And that's
are
why
denying fucking genocide! Get the fuck out of here! UFB is sick! We're not getting rid of you fucks! Fuck you! Don't
they don't have informed consent to collect that data from that young person who is not prepared to deal with this. He's not ready. He doesn't have the training. And he falls into that trap where they leverage your trauma and they get you to lose your mind and this kind of thing. So this is what really they're getting. This is what they're causing. And so, that's not accountability for the people who are responsible for these scams. Okay, that's traumatization and terrorizing, just university community people, including vulnerable populations like First Nations and youth. It's atrocious. Okay, so Frances Widdowson and Tamara Lich are nothing like Charlie Kirk. Okay, they don't have anything in common with the youth. They are elderly women who plan to show up on university campuses uninvited with no facilities booked to conduct unethical research, and they are not at all like Charlie Kirk, and they admit it. You can have a look at Tamara Lich's post right here. What is it about Canadian grandmas that threaten the authorities so much? Oh, poor Dr. Widdowson, the victim here. Yeah. So, I mean, they erase the real victims, and then and they try to replace themselves, put themselves in that space instead. It's just despicable. So here's some key differences. While Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA focus on structured conservative activism aimed at engaging young people in political discourse, the activities of individuals like Frances Widdowson, Dallas Brodie, and Tamara Lich in her planned role with Rebel News often involve more confrontational, unsolicited engagements on sensitive historical and cultural issues, particularly around Indigenous topics. These differences manifest in organization, ethics, invitation status, content focus, and public reception. Below is a comparative table highlighting the glaring distinctions based on documented activities. So here we go. So with Charlie Kirk, events are typically organized through student chapters, university approvals, or invitations with pre-registration required, which is that would involve like some informed consent. You see what I'm saying? So not unethical. Sold out events at universities. People pay to see Charlie Kirk. Okay, no one's going to pay to go and see these people traumatized First Nations genocide survivors. Attendees have to show ID and be above 18. So you see, they're not disposing of ethics. They have regard for ethics, right? So I mean, I'm not saying that I agree with Charlie Kirk's point of view on a great many things, but you know, what I'm pointing out are the differences here. So no reports of uninvited appearances leading to arrests, okay? So the activities of these genociders here, often uninvited or unsolicited, resulting in trespassing charges, arrests, or escorts off the campus. That just happened again. Like when I did this, I actually created this PowerPoint that we're looking at before UBC event, and there was another arrest. So events are sometimes staged without authorization, leading to cancellations or protests. Lich's planned Rebel News tour is described as town-by-town engagements, but specifics on invitations are unclear. Rebel News has a history of confrontational journalism. So approach and methods. With Charlie Kirk and the TPUSA, structured debates, prove me wrong tables for open dialogue, speeches, tabling to promote conservative ideas, emphasis on energizing youth through education and activism. With large-scale tours like the American Comeback Tour, no documented ambushes or demands for reckoning from specific vulnerable groups, okay, like First Nations genocide survivors. So confrontational of the others here, the genociders. Confrontational tactics like spectrum street epistemology, which is just another way of saying unethical research, you want to ask me, to question historical narratives. Brodie involved in denialism tours. Lich plans sparking conversations via on-the-ground journalism, but critics view Rebel News styles as ambush interviews. That might be okay with public people. Like barely okay with public people, but not private citizens who did nothing to you. See, this is the thing. They're showing up on university campuses and they're like terrorizing people who did nothing to them. Okay? Instead of going after the people that are implicated in these scams and the leadership of these scams who are getting away with it again while they're creating this distraction by traumatizing like regular people who did nothing to them. Private citizens. It's not okay. Canada. It's not okay on many, many levels. And so, I mean, you don't need me to tell you that. It's the case. And it's not going to go any other way. It's clear, it's glaring. Okay, so then ethical considerations and consent. So with Charlie Kirk and TPUSA, engagements are voluntary. Debates occur with willing participants at public tables or events. No allegations of unethical research or on vulnerable populations like survivors of trauma. Focus on political ideas without targeting specific historical victims. And then with the Genociders, they're accused of unethical approaches, such as ambushing or questioning residential school survivors without informed consent. Lich's role involves man-on-the-street interviews, which could involve unsolicited interactions, and it's viewed by critics such as me as extracting data and provoking for content, and for clicks, and for personal gain, and it's not ethical, clearly. Okay, content focus. So Charlie Kirk and TPUSA, promoting free markets, limited government, and anti-cultural Marxism and freedom of speech. So aimed at winning the battle of ideas with youth through positive role modeling and debates. With the Genociders, it's challenging narratives on indigenous issues, including residential school denialism. And Lich focuses on freedom and convoy related themes, but tied to Rebel News' provocative style, often seen as harmful to vulnerable communities. So public reception and outcomes. Charlie Kirk and TPUSA attracts large crowds, like 3,000 at Virginia Tech, surges in student chapter interest, viral online clips, some heated exchanges, but generally framed as empowering activism. So, I mean, that's what they hope to achieve, but, I mean, they're nothing like Charlie Kirk, and they're not going to be able to generate... like it's a fake. It's not Charlie Kirk. It's nothing close. It's a fake and feeble attempt to ride on his like piggyback on his like, I mean, the man is dead. Like that's really unethical if you want to ask a First Nations person, chums. And I mean, I think you should agree, but it's really unethical according to First Nation philosophy. So with the Genociders, frequent protests, firings, accusations of racism, denialism, and deepening divisions. Some Indigenous leaders call for resignations. Lich's plans are crowdfunded for security due to anticipated backlash. So, if they were such great, wonderful people, like Ezra likes to say, then they wouldn't have to anticipate any backlash. These differences highlight a contrast between formalized political outreach and more ad hoc, controversy-driven engagements. Forced engagements, okay? And you can't force people to engage with you. That's harassment. TPUSA's model emphasizes recruitment and debate within established venues, while others' approaches have been criticized for insensitivity toward historical traumas such as residential schools. So Brodie's direct ties to Rebel News are limited to interviews, but she has collaborated with Widdowson on denialist events, and Lich has collaborated with both. Lich's tour is still in planning, so actual implementation will vary, and you can bet your butts that I'm watching that like a shithawk, chums. So, analysis of ethical implications. The use of terms like community ambassador interchangeably with journalism by Rebel News for figures such as Tamara Lich highlights broader concerns in citizen and independent journalism, particularly when individuals lack formal training in journalistic ethics. This practice can blur lines between advocacy, activism, and objective reporting, potentially misleading audiences about the nature of the content. So below, we analyze the ethical implications based on established journalism standards, focusing on misrepresentation, lack of training, uninvited campus engagements, and data extraction without consent. This draws from critiques of citizen journalism, where untrained individuals may prioritize engagement, forced engagement in this case, over accuracy, fairness, and harm minimization. So here's the corporate structure of Rebel News, just so that you can see. So it's a private corporation, and Ezra is the owner. It was launched as an individual effort before formal incorporation. It has a small advisory board and has employed various contributors over time, and it has seen departures from Brian Lilly. Did you know that Brian Lilly was involved in the establishment of Rebel News? And he removed himself amid internal disputes. So what's the story there, Brian? Anyways, so here's some of the details. Some of the directors. Headquarters in Toronto. Organization has expanded to include affiliates like Rebel News USA, Australia, UK. It has been involved in legal actions such as a $3,000 fine in 2021 for violating third-party advertising rules and during federal election. And that was upheld in 2023 and 2025, related to promoting Levant's book without disclosure. So as I said, the reason that they do all this stuff, this unethical journalism, is for their own benefit, okay, and self-promotion. So they use the data, they put it in their books and in their content, and they sell that stuff. Or they generate income from that stuff. It's not ethical, chums. It's not ethical. Financing. So Rebel News operates on a crowdfunding model, explicitly avoiding government subsidies. It frequently solicits donations from viewers, such as his recent TMZ-style journalism in Switzerland. Yeah, and they have their donations are not tax deductible because of the denial of qualified journalism status, which of course they should be denied, as you based on what I'm showing you. Just that's enough to know why. So the outlet has also generated revenue through merchandise on like Shopify. They faced boycotts, losing around 300 advertisers in 2017 due to content controversies. So donations are their primary stream. Advertising, other initiatives, and government funding. There is no government funding. So controversies around financing include allegations from a former contributor in 2017 that donations were solicited for already funded projects and that funds were concealed, leading to a settled dispute. So we probably won't know the details of that dispute as it's been settled. Critics have described the model as a grift, pointing to the tax status denial and activism focus over journalism. Supporters argue that it allows for unbiased reporting funded solely by the public. It's certainly not unbiased. The object has grown its audience with over 900,000 YouTube followers as of early reports. So, this kind of sensationalism is how they have managed to do that. So that's pretty much it, chums. Just going over the main points of my presentation again. Canada is a fake country and the laughing stock of the world. This is one of the biggest problems that they have. They blame us for their problems that arise from colonialism, and they want you to blame us as well. And that's all very divisive. That's not going to get us anywhere. That's not what First Nations are involved in. And no matter how much they try to project their own behaviors onto us. The only people that just because the leadership have sold out, and are running scams doesn't mean the general population of First Nations are anything like them, because we're not. We're not genociders of our own people, the worst kind of genociders. So the truth is that Europeans would not have survived here if we hadn't helped them. Some of them, including some of us, including the Anishinaabe, agreed to share the land and resources that people need to survive here. They did what they always do and what they continue to do. They stole everything they could steal, and then they lied about it. So they're still lying about it, and they use countless methods to wipe us out, and they have failed. Many of these methods are now being used to wipe out their own people as part of a white genocide that I agree is taking place. We are survivors, and we are still here to confront their lies. As long as people like me exist, this will not change. They are offended that we exist, and they are offended that we assert our interest in our land and resources, which is exactly what they would do if they were in our position, and if we didn't do it, they would call us stupid. Okay? So they are not interested in truth or justice, and they are lying to you, and they lie to the youth, and that it really offends me, and it's not okay. Instead of dealing with these disputes honorably for the first time ever, they will pass their Indian problem down to their children and grandchildren like the cowards and racists and genociders that they are. So that's really it for my presentation, and thank you very much for watching, everybody. I'll keep an eye on what's going on, and I'll post further analyses in the future.